Now on CoastTV News.
Deadly explosion. The scene tonight after a Dagsboro house was destroyed this morning and how long it could be before a cause is determined. Reassessment review. Delaware's new special committee meets for the first time to discuss property reassessment concerns, and a standoff in Washington as President Trump signals a government shutdown within hours. What that could mean for federal workers.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
You're looking at the current state of a house that exploded in Dagsboro this morning, now left in ruins. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Christina DeRobertis. On your screen now is the home where authorities say the explosion happened. It happened around 7 a.m. The Frankfort Fire Department tells CoastTV more than 100 first responders were on the scene there. The home was occupied. Sussex County EMS confirming one person is dead. Another one is in stable condition after the house explosion. Now this morning, the entire area was taped off. The cause of the explosion, though, it's still unknown. And we did go back tonight to get a look. You can see even less there tonight. Crews were working all day to demolish the home. Neighbors we spoke with say they couldn't believe what they heard and felt this morning.
The wife said something has fell. I said, no, honey, it was more than that, to shake the house and us to feel it.
I heard a loud explosion, sound something like a big truck had either ran into something or turned over.
We did speak to multiple people who live nearby. Many of them said in the days before this explosion, they saw gas trucks outside of the house, but again, there's still no official cause. The Delaware State Fire Marshal said it could be a while before a cause is determined. Officials did say, though, there are currently no indicators of criminal activity. Well, concerns over recent property tax hikes brought lawmakers and neighbors to Delaware's Legislative Hall today. The state's Special Property Reassessment Committee held its first hearing to review the reassessment process after the first state went more than 40 years without one. Lawmakers pressed Tyler Technologies, which is the company behind the reassessment. They were asking how Tyler Technologies calculated new property values. The company explained its approach, but a pending lawsuit tied an August bill kept many specifics off the table. Lawmakers say the goal of today's hearing was to get answers about what went wrong during the process.
Since we hadn't done it in 40 or 50 years, we're setting the platform, the groundwork to be able to do something more responsibly in the future and more equitably as well for Delawareans.
Now, today's hearing was one of 4 scheduled sessions. The next hearing is scheduled for October 7th. Today, students were evacuated from the University of Delaware. The school says it was because of police activity that was prompted by a potential campus safety incident. The school took to Facebook to say police were investigating a report of a potential campus safety incident and, quote, out of an abundance of caution, the school evacuated Gore Hall, Sharp Lab, and Mitchell Hall to prioritize the safety of the university community. Normal activity did resume later in the afternoon. And over at Delaware State University, also an evacuation, and all classes were canceled today due to what they say was a bomb threat. According to a DSU spokesperson, the university received the threat just before 11 a.m. University police working with state and federal authorities to investigate that threat. DSU officials say academic buildings were evacuated out of an abundance of caution and that classes were canceled for the rest of the day. All DSU employees except essential personnel were sent home, according to a DSU spokesperson. A fight at a Wicomico County high school has gone viral, and now people in the community are demanding the district take action. This is the fight in question. It happened last week at Parkside High School. It was between a white student and a black student. We've obviously bleeped part of this out, but in the video you can hear the white student say a racial slur and threaten to shoot the other student with a gun.
You're going to attack somebody racially, and then you're going to threaten their life with a gun? Then you have to be accountable for that.
And Wicomico County schools could not go into detail about punishments, but they say it is handling this matter in accordance with its code of conduct, and that clearly lays out that fighting can result in out-of-school suspension or expulsion. Now we are taking a live look into Lewis, a pretty calm evening here on the coast. But before we turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Paul Williams, I want to take a look at this video. This is out of North Carolina. You can see here, it seems Hurricane Imelda is already leaving her mark there on the southern coast. 5 beachfront homes in the Outer Banks fell into the ocean today. Lots of heavy winds, big waves crashing there. All 5 homes were unoccupied, but that now marks 17 homes that have collapsed on seashore beaches in just the past 5 years. And Paul, I don't know what kind of impact we can expect here, if any.
Well, the good news is because it's so far away and we have a front that's pushing us away, so we've got a couple of things blocking it away from it. You see, we see the closest actually is Imelda right now. It's close right here. This is where the damage occurred. And this over here is actually Umberto, which is actually kind of falling apart. So we're 185 miles from the outer rings of this particular cell. But you can see just how powerful this hurricane is, and hurricanes are in general. By the way, Umberto died out because it hit colder waters, and this is going to be moving up towards colder water. Keep in mind, we were 433 miles away, okay? So that's not going to be an immediate threat to us in any shape or form. And then as we kind of pull out here, you got to realize Umberto's sustained winds at 80 miles per hour. Imelda is at 85 mile per hour sustained winds. With the barometric pressure at 977 millibars. But the frontal boundary is going to continue. We have a cold front that's pushing through right now, and that front is going to continue to sweep the potential of that threatening us right on out of the way like a big, gigantic broom. So it's not an immediate threat. But we're going to be very mindful of it still staying very breezy for us here because we have a gale wind warning that will stay in effect until 6 o'clock on Wednesday. So we are going to watch out for 45 mile per hour winds, but we're not going to be concerned about anything blowing a house down anytime soon.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. Well, you've probably driven on Route 1. It can be hectic. It can be busy, especially if you're trying to cut across the highway. But as Coast TV's Emma Aiken reports, DelDOT is doing more work to try and make that a little easier and a little safer.
Construction crews and equipment working on an overpass project near Route 16 and Route 1 in Milton to make driving safer, according to DelDOT. Because right now, locals like Betty Tomchak aren't too fond of the highway.
In the summer, from May till, well, September, I avoid Route 1 like the plague.
And DelDOT understands the impulse. They tell me the goal is to take Route 1 out of the picture altogether for drivers going east and west. That means just not having intersections. They can do that by adding another piece to the overpass.
According to DelDOT, out of all of the intersections on Route 1 from Milford down to Lewis, this one behind me, the one at Route 16, is the intersection where they've seen the most crashes over the past few years.
The goal of this project is to reduce those crashes. The southbound part of the intersection was completed back in April. Now, starting Wednesday, DelDOT says they will mirror that on the northbound side. And local Leanne Haynes hopes that when it's all said and done, the road will be safer.
Well, that'll make it better, I think.
And if it does, by the time these orange cones disappear, maybe the dread and anxiety some feel trying to cross Route 1 will go with them.
That was Emma Aiken reporting, and this brings us right into our Coast TV poll tonight because we want to know what concerns you about the 6-month closures. Let's take a look at the results here. Most people, 77%, say the added traffic. That's been the most popular answer all day. A few people, though, worried about emergency delays, business impact, or weather delays. You can still vote, too. It's not too late. Head over to coasttv.com or use our mobile app, and you can find some updated results online. Now here is a live look into Washington, where lawmakers are working late tonight as we are on the brink of another federal government shutdown. Many federal agencies will be closed tomorrow, and hundreds of thousands of government employees will be off the job after Congress failed to reach an agreement to avert the shutdown this afternoon. As NBC's Chris Pallone reports, President Trump says some government workers could lose their jobs permanently.
Tonight, the federal government on the brink of a shutdown, the first since 2018.
The 60-vote threshold having not been received.
2 last-ditch Senate votes to keep the government open failed Tuesday night, neither bill getting the necessary 60 votes needed to pass in the Republican-controlled chamber. Federal employees have been told to expect an orderly shutdown. On Capitol Hill, the finger-pointing started before the voting did.
Senate Democrats have sacrificed the American people to Democrats' partisan interests.
So we see now Republicans are plunging America into a shutdown, rejecting bipartisan talks, pushing a partisan bill, and risking America's health care, worst of all.
Democrats hope to secure more money for Affordable Care Act subsidies before costs for consumers skyrocket. Republicans say there's time to negotiate that later. In a shutdown, Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits will continue. So will student loans. But national parks could close, and 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed. Others, like TSA officers, would work without pay until the shutdown ends.
The last thing we want to do is shut it down, but a lot of good can come down from shutdowns.
President Trump warning some of the government employees furloughed during the shutdown might not come back when it's over.
When you shut it down, you have to do layoffs, so we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected.
Senate leadership says that chamber will be in session over the weekend, but right now the House is not slated to be back until October 7th, meaning a shutdown could last at least a week if the House is not called back sooner. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And the Senate will be back in session tomorrow with 2 more votes on efforts to end the shutdown. And we are just getting started this evening. Still to come, bikes and scooters on the sidewalk and what Ocean City is planning to do to keep them on the road. But first, sticker shock for boaters in Maryland. What fees are changing and by how much?
Taking a quick peek at your Bay forecast, we're going to have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. A little breezy on Wednesday, but 69, 68 on Thursday, and scattered clouds on Friday. And we'll also take a preview of your weekend weather coming up in 60 seconds. Well, we're still a little bit on the muggy side for right now, but all that's going to drop significantly for tomorrow, and we'll see more sunshine here, but it's going to feel much, much cooler. In fact, we're going to see those winds really kick in by 2 o'clock in the morning, for example, in Rehoboth Beach, and then that'll continue for tomorrow morning going into all of Wednesday. We're at 68 degrees actually right now in Millsboro. We're at 66 in Gumboro right now, and we're staying well into the 60s for most locations. Now, keep in mind that we anticipate it's going to continue to stay very much on the cool side. Now, first of all, live radar, we actually have a coastal flood advisory that's in effect just because of the high tides and the low tides, but the gale wind warning is active. Now, for this gale wind warning, we're talking about a 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gust from Lewis all the way down to Ocean View down to Fenwick Island. Now, in conjunction with that or connected to it, we also have a high surf advisory really connected to the winds because that concern for winds sweeps all the way down from Ocean City down towards Chincoteague. And then on the other side, we're concerned about gusty winds, for example, in Cambridge, Castlehaven, James, and Timmins, but not as badly. We're just talking about 25 mile per hour wind gusts here, but that's still enough to get you in trouble if you go out too far in the water. Right now, we are staying very quiet, but look at these winds picking up. We're looking at 27 mile per hour wind gusts in Bethany Beach right now as we speak. And what's on the horizon? How about near 40 mile per hour winds expected as early as 6:30 for Wednesday morning and for Wednesday afternoon, and really for Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. So you see not much has changed. That magenta color right there indicating upper 30s, that's staying in full effect for us. It really doesn't shrink away until we get to, let's say, early Thursday going to really Friday morning where the winds change direction dramatically. So brighter and breezy. That's what we're expecting for tomorrow. 70 degrees in Seaford, Georgetown, Lewis, Millsboro, as well as Laurel, 70 in Cambridge, and also 70 degrees in Pocomoke City, as well as Snow City and Chincoteague, as well as Salisbury. So Wednesday we'll see cloud cover early, but then as we go into the afternoon around lunchtime, we'll see a slice of cloud cover left over. The rest of it vamooses, okay? And then we'll stay clear. Now it's going to be much cooler because the dew point temperatures will fall into the 40s, but the highs will only be in the 60s, so we're going to bounce around between the 50s and the 60s. Rehashing what we talked about earlier in the newscast, here's Hurricane Umberto falling apart, ran across some sheer but mainly colder water, and that's just breaking that up. Imelda is still causing problems for the folks actually in North Carolina as it begins to move on through. You see, but they're both connected together, but this frontal boundary will protect us from this, okay? So that's why we're not expecting an immediate threat. But when you have two storms like this that are stirring around, they'll at least give us a little bit of concern. That's why we have the active gale wind warning in effect for our area. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
Thank you again, Paul. Well, in Maryland, boaters there will soon pay more to get on the water. Beginning tomorrow, registration, title fees, and validation stickers all jump dramatically. The 2-year registration fee will go up from $24 to $70. Title fees went up 1,000%, going from $2 to $20, and validation stickers go from $10 to $70. Many boaters not so happy with those changes.
I'm retired too, so I got a small income. I'm going to have to be more careful, more frugal what to do. It could stop me from doing things.
And the hikes are tied to Maryland's Waterway Improvement Fund, which will now fully cover projects up to $500,000. The state says the increases will fund dredging, boat ramps, and waterway access and safety. Also starting Wednesday, the state of Maryland will allow bikes and scooters on the sidewalks, but that change not exactly what the town of Ocean City is looking for. The town council is actually considering an ordinance against that. Council members say more riders on the sidewalk could lead to conflicts with people walking, also raising safety issues at busy intersections and increase the chances of people crossing against traffic signals.
Possibly from May 1st to October 1st, that the bikes and the scooters cannot be on the sidewalk, but then in the off season that they can. It's a lot less people here.
So the Ocean City Council plans to release the first draft of that ordinance next Monday. Coming up, lights, camera, tariffs, the president's new push that could shake up the movie industry. And coming up, keeping an eye on AI, new parental controls for ChatGPT. We have more on that when we're back.
This is Coast TV News at 11.
Well, it looks like parents can now exercise some control over ChatGPT conversations. OpenAI says it's launched parental controls and a parent resource page to offer guidance on how ChatGPT works. The controls will allow parents to link their account to their teen's account so they can customize age-appropriate settings. OpenAI says it worked with advocacy groups like Common Sense Media to develop these parental controls. The film industry is finding itself in the middle of a new policy debate as President Trump is calling for big changes to how movies are made and where they're made. Reporter Gus Rosendale shows us why the proposal is already sparking reaction in New York.
Making movies can be full of drama. Now it had some political intrigue and uncertainty. President Trump renewing a push on social media since posting, "The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death." The president points to incentives from other countries drawing production from the U.S. His proposal, a 100% tariff on movies produced outside the country. It's the second time the president has floated the tariff, saying back in May,
I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in.
Local production, big business in the tri-state area, from a busy on-location filming site we came across in Tribeca today, to established studios across the city. Also, Netflix expanding its studio presence in New Jersey.
It's crazy to export being the content creator for the world and lose that position and train other people to take our jobs.
Doug Steiner, chairman of Brooklyn-based Steiner Studios, the largest East Coast TV and movie studio, backs the White House proposal.
I think it's, we proved it in New York as what a great economic driver it's been, and we got a lot of business over the last 20 years since we signed a tax credit into law at our grand opening in 2004. Unfortunately, that lesson was learned by other countries, Canada and overseas, and they've been taking our jobs.
But others were. The uncertainty surrounding a tariff could lead to some producers canceling productions, whether here or abroad.
It disincentivizes the making of a movie, period, as opposed to saying, oh, you know what, we should be producing this film in California, or we should be producing this film in Minnesota.
And that was Gus Rosendale reporting. Plus, there's still more news to come here on Coast TV News at 11. Coming up, a look ahead into DSN's Game of the Night this Thursday between two familiar foes, Y High, hoping to remain undefeated as the midpoint of the 2025 season approaches. And coming up, Pfizer strikes a deal with the White House, what it could mean for the cost of your prescriptions. President Trump announced today that his administration has reached a deal with Pfizer for it to sell drugs at lower prices. As part of the deal, Trump said Pfizer will sell some of its drugs on a new direct-to-consumer website called Trump RX. The deal gives Pfizer a grace period on Trump's tariffs on pharmaceuticals made abroad, and those tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow. Trump said moving forward, all new drugs introduced by Pfizer to the U.S. market will be sold at the lower prices. Here's a recall to be aware of. True Fruit has recalled some of its freeze-dried fruit because it might contain metal. The recall was technically issued by Georgia Nut Company, which manufactures the products. Affected items include True Fruit freeze-dried strawberries in dark and white chocolate, also strawberries and cream. They were sold at retailers including Target, CVS, and Food Lion. There have been no reports of injuries. Well, it is, of course, important to clean and disinfect your home to prevent the spread of germs, but some cleaning products can be hazardous to your health if they're used improperly. In tonight's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on the dangers and how to safely disinfect your house.
Washing hands and highly touched surfaces are two keys to keeping viruses and other illnesses from spreading. But some of the cleaning supplies in your home can be dangerous if used the wrong way.
The nonprofit Environmental Working Group found that more than 2,000 cleaning products in the United States might contain chemicals linked to asthma, cancer, and chemical burns.
The CDC says in most situations, cleaning alone with soap and water can remove most germs on surfaces. However, if someone in your home has been sick or a person who recently visited had an illness, the agency says properly diluted bleach can effectively kill germs. But take these steps for safety. Use regular, unscented household bleach that contains between 5 to 9% sodium hypochlorite. If it's laundry or splashless bleach, it may not be appropriate for disinfection, so make sure it's in that percentage range. Never mix household bleach or any other disinfectant with other cleaners or disinfectants. This can release vapors that can be dangerous to breathe in. Make sure you have good ventilation, for example, open windows. Check the label to see if you need to wear protective equipment like gloves or eye protection, and follow directions on the bottle to prepare a diluted bleach solution. You can also check if your other cleaners are safe.
Next time you need to replace something, spend a minute looking for this, the EPA's Safer Choice label, or checking their online database.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
Good evening, everyone. It's early in the week, but never too early to start thinking about some pigskin. We've got yet another good one for you on Thursday. We're back at County Stadium for another Salisbury rivalry. Y-High is 4-0 for the first time since 2021 and looking like an offense that's nearly impossible to stop. They rank among the top 10 in points scored in the state of Maryland this season and have scored 40 or more in their last 3 games. They'll be going against a Parkside team that has plenty of firepower to match, though, led by Tavian DeShiel, who turned in a 3-touchdown performance against Colonel Richardson last Thursday. Both teams are excited to add another page to this rivalry, and especially Parkside, who would love to be the first team to give Y-High a loss in 2025.
You know, in the past, Parkside's been a heavy run team, and they've been a difficult team to stop in the run, and that's always been our priority against them is stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. Well, this year it's a little bit of a swing because Thomas Gromley, at quarterback, is throwing great passes, really good. He's putting the ball on the money. He can spin it. And then they've got, like you said, Tavian and Ethan, who are really good athletes. So it should provide more challenges for us than it has in the past.
They're a well-coached team. You know, those kids are coming and they're energetic about what it is that they're doing. And I think at the end of the day, it's about us controlling what we can control, you know, and trusting in what we're doing, and then making sure that we go out there and execute based upon what it is that they're going to give us.
It's going to be a good one between two high-powered offenses, and I can't wait to see it. That'll do it for sports. Have a great night.
Some good news tonight. Delaware lottery players are cashing in on some big wins this month. That's according to the Delaware Lottery Association. They say a Millsboro man won $10,000 with a scratch-off he bought from a Wawa on Long Neck Road. In Milford, a group of friends scored $50,000 on a Powerball ticket that was bought at a shore stop in Dover. An 80-year-old man from Lewis won more than $37,000 on a ticket purchased at Uncle Willie's, that's on Coastal Highway. And a Milford woman landed a life-changing prize of almost $400,000. Her winning ticket was sold at Sweet Mart on Causey Avenue.
Sound like my new relatives are in town. Okay, anyway, take it over. 69 degrees. Congratulations to you winners. 60s. Listen, just to recap, we do have the gale wind warning in effect and a newly issued coastal flood advisory. Keep that in mind. Tim Ciali of Millsboro, remember, you're our new winner. Congratulations to you. Keep up with your forecast by calling our weather line, sponsored by the law offices of Bruckstedt, Medalis, and Federico. And finally, here's a look at your exclusive 10-day forecast.
All right, looks good to me. Thank you, Paul, and thanks to you for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. For more news, more local weather, you can download our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon's up next, and we'll see you tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.